All right. I call this meeting, the governance meeting, to order at 11:04. 11:04. I'll try to make sure I get them 4 minutes back, y'all. 11:04 is the start of the meeting. I do know that Dr. Robinson is present and Mr. Edminster is present as well. Or Director Robinson and Director Edminster are present as well. To call the meeting to order and pulling my agenda, board chair announcements and recommendations. The only announcement I have at this time is the fact that one of our former board members, if you did not know, former board member or director of this organization, and also a colleague of mine on the county commission, passed away yesterday morning. Mr. James Holmes, Commissioner Holmes, passed away yesterday morning. So I did want to make sure that that was the only announcement I did make today, and I will make the announcement next week when we have our actual board meeting. I'll have a little bit more to talk about at that time. Are there any other announcements or recommendations we need from any member of the board or from Chatham Area Transit itself?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to recognize Mr. Dumas. He is on the call today. He is actually going to be appointed or has been appointed as the acting chief operating officer in the absence of Michael Brown.
Okay.
And so we've asked him to go ahead and start joining the calls. He'll be holding that role temporarily, and he made it clear to me that it was going to be temporary, that he only wanted to do it temporarily, but he was happy to jump in.
All
Go
right.
ahead.
I appreciate Mr. Dumas for taking on that honor for us. It means a lot that, so we can keep our organization moving forward. I appreciate that again. Mr. Dumas, do you have anything you want to lend to the conversation? Unmute yourself, brother. Unmute yourself. You still muted.
How about
There you
now?
go. There you go. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Malden, first of all, for having the confidence and asking me to assist you in this role. And I'm here to assist her as well as the board members in any way that I can, and to give you any advice or experience that I have over 30 years here working at Chatham Area Transit. Again, I'm so grateful that Ms. Malden asked me and that she was willing to, honor me with a temporary role. I'm here to work, but I'm going to do the best that I can in any role, any capacity that you ask me to do. So thank you again for allowing me this opportunity.
All right. I appreciate you stepping up and taking on the opportunity too, my friend.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Well, are there any additional announcements, Ms. Malden, you have for us?
I have none at this time.
All right. Appreciate it. All right. So basically, then we'll be going to our third item on the agenda, committee presentations and updates, COVID-19 response, action and policy. Mr. Stearns, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to share a screen.
And while he's doing that, I'll just add that, as you know, we've been proactively working as an agency to combat and contain uh, the spread of COVID within the ranks of our workforce, and of course, keep our customers safe. And so we felt like it was timely, just with everything that is going on. Of course, we had our virtual call center opening and all of that. It just shines a light on the things that the agency is proactively doing to ensure that we're keeping, again, our facilities safe, our workforce safe, and our customers safe. And so a part of that is, of course, creating policies. We've always said that we believe in doing things decently and in order, and with a structure, in a strategic manner. And a part of that is creating policies and actions and protocols and processes and procedures to go along with it. While the board has the policy making authority, of course, we have enacted some things as procedures. And so those are the things that I've emailed to you all, and that will be coming before you later on the agenda. But David has done a lot of work in creating these documents And so he's going to kind of give you a brief summary of the things that we've enacted as a part of our COVID response. And with that, I'll turn it over to David.
David, can you make it full screen so we can make sure we have it?
Oh, is that the
Or
display?
slideshow, I guess slideshow.
You put
Or
it in
you-
presentation mode.
Okay.
This right here.
Are you guys seeing the full screen?
I see I guess in the PowerPoint, the whole PowerPoint. Don't worry about it. Go ahead and move with it. Dave.
Click
Go
the
ahead and move.
icon that's at the top, the fourth icon on the left-hand side. If you click that icon, that should take it to presentation mode.
Any better?
David, go ahead, move into the presentation. We'll work on that when we go to the full presentation for the board. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so picking up where Bakara left off, much of what you're going to see in these policies and throughout the slideshow have actually been going on since the beginning, since March. Erica and her team have done a great job of informing everyone about the safety protocols for COVID. Right from the get-go, there was good communication. I think an effort for good communication with employees. There was town hall meetings held weekly with CAT leadership. Safety briefings were featured on these town halls, and employees could ask questions. There was also what we call e-briefs blasted out to all employees, which would contain COVID safety protocols and other useful information. And then a lot of signage has been placed up around CAT. So what I want to kind of get into is beyond the communication, what we are actually have been doing and what our policy that you'll see later kind of captures. So the first thing is just simple safety and hygiene. You know, workplace safety, wash hands, clean surfaces, that kind of thing. Then there's notice requirements in order to do any sort of contact tracing or anything like that. Basically, we have requirements that you notify HR if you are awaiting test results or a member of your household has COVID or you've been exposed to COVID. That allows HR to kind of run contact tracing and just basically let CAT know if we need to do anything. We have also instituted face coverings are required at CAT in by our employees. And we've instituted things like distancing protocols. For instance, admin employees are working staggered schedules in order to allow there to be at least 6 feet between them. Right now, we're kind of, most of us are working from home, but even when we were in the office, there was a staggered schedule that allowed us to maintain appropriate distance from other employees. And then, of course, we're providing PPE to our employees. So we also, Bakar was really good about instituting this health screening upon Beverly's taking control. Health screening protocols upon entering. So these are the typical questions that you have become familiar with. They're modified slightly to fit CAT's needs, but any entrance that you can actually get into would be covered by somebody and you'll get hit with the questions and then your temperature will be taken. And this is done monitoring around the clock when anyone would be coming in. So then we had a social distancing and protocols for cleaning. Again, I mentioned the 6 feet apart. That's at CAT, but we're also doing capacity limitations for our buses. We're doing rear door boarding. These are things that the board's kind of familiar with, but these are all protocols that were put in place in order to help mitigate the spread of COVID. Some other policy or procedures we put in place: no work travel, staggered work schedules for employees I mentioned, and telework when possible. Another important thing we've done is prohibit visitors from CAT. Not that many people are out and about anyway, but we're not seeing visitors right now. And we really are trying to limit it to just the critical vendors that come on campus. And even then, those vendors would be subject to the same temperature checks, health screening questions, and face mask coverings. So what do we do when we have a positive case? As I mentioned, we have these notification requirements to HR. Every employee is aware you got to notify HR if you test positive. Well, there's just a number of instances. So if we finally get if we have a positive COVID case, what we do is we do contact tracing. That's taken on by HR. They follow the actual CDC and health department guidelines for contact tracing. And then what HR will do is notify any employees that were exposed as a result of their investigation. They find out if so-and-so employee was exposed, and they would contact that employee to say you have a potential exposure, you should probably go get tested. We'll provide testing information. CAT's health insurance policy actually pays for testing, but even if you didn't have insurance, you can of course get it free, and we kind of tell them the locations where you can get that free. And then what we do is a deep clean of work areas. This is in addition, Steve and his crew have done a great job of cleaning our physical office areas as well as our buses. But if we have a confirmed COVID case, then we'll do an extra clean using even things like vital oxide and foggers and stuff like that. So then finally, what do? We notify the health department. And so the health department kind of runs their own protocols. So as far as the cleaning and disinfecting goes, I mentioned enhanced cleaning and disinfecting with vital oxide has become a phrase that we're all familiar with, but it's a very effective cleaning agent. So we have plenty of vital oxide, and we use the foggers to just kind of fog out the whole area and clean all surfaces really. And the other thing is in addition to our own in-house cleaners, we work with a certified COVID cleaning vendor. So they've been specially trained to deal with things like COVID and honestly any other kind of infectious kind of issue that you're dealing with. So they'll come in and do a deep cleaning in the area or areas where where we have a positive COVID case. Okay. So if we have a positive case, I just kind of went through very briefly some of the steps we follow, and then what happens to get people back to work. So it kind of depends on the scenario we're talking about. So if somebody has COVID-19 and has symptoms, has COVID-19 symptoms and no known exposure, they can return to work 14 days after exposure. 14 days after the onset of symptoms, or when they get a negative test. And depending upon where you go to get your test, honestly, sometimes you'll get through the days before you get your test back. But I believe the Civic Center, at least in Chatham County, has been providing results pretty quickly. So if you have symptoms of COVID and say you were sent home, then you would get a COVID test. If it came back negative, you could come back to work, or you would have to wait 14 days after your symptoms came on. So for an employee that tested positive COVID with symptoms, so looks like they had COVID and turns out they did in fact have COVID, they can return to work 10 days after symptoms first appeared, and 24 hours have passed since their last fever and symptoms, cough and shortness of breath, etc., have improved. Notice that it's and, so it's all of these. And these are taken from the CDC. So these are the kind of guidelines provided by the CDC. In all that we do, in all our policies, all our procedures, all our protocols, the stuff Erica has been blasting out there and given to employees is taken from the CDC. So finally, we get down to a test positive for COVID with no symptoms. This is the one that a lot of people are concerned about because you could have COVID and not even know you have symptoms, well, for whatever reason, you end up testing positive with no symptoms, you can return to work 10 days after your diagnostic test. And you have not developed symptoms since the diagnostic test. So it kind of really gets fact specific, and it just kind of has to be that way because of the nature of COVID. So our policies and our procedures really are quite comprehensive to cover all the various scenarios. So another scenario that we'll encounter is exposed to COVID. So this is a term that a lot of people may use. So after you've been exposed or have a potential exposure to COVID, you can return to work 14 days after that exposure. Now, the caveat here is, what does exposure mean? Exposure doesn't mean I passed somebody in the hall who I think had COVID. What exposure really means is the CDC definition of exposure is being within 6 feet of someone with COVID for more than 15 minutes, providing care to someone at home with COVID, physical contact, hugging, kissing, etc., with somebody that has COVID, or sharing, eating, and drinking utensils with somebody with COVID. So the exposure definition, if somebody fits within this definition, then they could return to work after 14 days and not have any symptoms. And then the travel to CDC restricted area, that's basically a 14-day quarantine. You can return to work after you get home, essentially. So those are some of the protocols and the procedures. And then kind of tied into that is this federal legislation called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, and easily known by its acronym FFCRA. So what this does is create 2 new paid leave requirements. You got the Emergency Paid Sick Leave Act, which basically provides 80 hours of sick pay for quarantine, self-quarantine per doctor's orders, COVID symptoms and seeking medical advice, caring for someone who's subject to quarantine or self-quarantine, caring for a child whose school or daycare closed, or number 6 is a little vague. They say experiencing any other substantially similar situations. So that's kind of that's what the act says. It's kind of vague, but we don't mostly get to that. We mostly get to 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. So that gives 80 hours in addition to what they've already had on top of your normal procedures and all. So this is quite a good response in a lot of ways. And then the other part of the FFCRA is the Extended Family and Medical Leave Act. And what this does, it's a little bit different than the Paid Sick Leave Act because it applies only to employees that have been employed for at least 30 days. And it allows up to 12 weeks of FMLA benefits to care for dependents who are under 18 and whose school or daycare closed due to COVID-19. So the things to note there is it's only available if you have remaining FMLA benefits. So FMLA is 12 weeks. If you have 12 weeks of FMLA benefits, you could use them all under this act. The first 2 weeks, similar to FMLA, are unpaid. The somewhat really nice thing here is the last 10 weeks are paid at 2/3 regular pay, which is different than regular FMLA, up to a daily cap of $200 and a $10,000 aggregate. And that is the end of this presentation. If anyone has any questions, I'll try to provide my best answer.
All right, the floor is open. Do we have any questions?
Here we go.
Any questions out there? Dr. O'Halloran?
Yeah, who pays for the that 80-hour FFCRA program? Is that employer paid or?
Yes, so it's one of those unfunded mandates, basically. So CAT would pay.
Great. Okay, more debt we can accumulate. All right, thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Stearns, for the presentation. We'll be moving into recommended board consent agenda items. And the first two items we pretty much know are extensions on COVID-19 emergency measure extension and CEO measure authority extension. Clinton, Director Robinson or Director Edmonds, do you have any questions to that? It's just an extension to the extension of the extension of the extension.
I'm good with it.
All right. All right, so moving to item C, the Naval Engineering and Design Service Contract Amendment. Do we have any questions? Do we have any information we want to add to that, Ms. Malden?
No, sir.
All right. All right, to my Dr. Robinson, Clinton, this should have been expressed in our committee meetings. So do you have any commentary to that? Do you want to add?
I don't have anything specific to the engineering design in our committee meeting for the stakeholders. And this isn't necessarily about number C, but there were more, I recommended more items to be on the consent agenda. And so I just want to make sure that we maybe move some of the items under 5 into 4. That's all.
I am going to be your biggest cheerleader on that in just a second, my friend.
Great.
All right. With that being said, the IFB insurance for Susie King Taylor Rehabilitation Service. Y'all have any questions to that?
Issuance, right?
Sir?
Issuance.
I apologize. Issuance. I apologize. My other hat was on for just a second. I apologize. Issuance for Susan King Taylor and Rehabilitation Services. All right. Then we'll move to line item 5, proposed board agenda items for August. Seems we have a presentation and an action item for protection and indemnity and hall insurance overview. And we have that, and we also have the renewal to that. Are we gonna get some, is this an item that was added? Ms. Malden.
I was gonna ask Ms. Franklin to speak to that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Franklin, you have the floor. I can't hear you. Okay, there you go. I hear you now.
Hello?
Yeah, I hear you now.
You hear me? Okay.
So you good.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Just in case there's someone on the meeting that doesn't know me, I'm Erica Franklin, the Director of Safety Training and Environmental Services. And this item is to request the board's approval of coverages for our marine insurance program via Sterling Seacrest Partners for our protection and indemnity and liability, excess liability, and hull coverage for our marine operations. Those coverages are for your liability, just like on your auto, and physical damage. Hull is physical damage coverage. It's up for renewal, and we have received a proposal from our insurance broker, Sterling Seacrest Partners, which they have provided. They will also be at the board meeting upcoming next week to present the proposal in full, but I wanted to give a kind of a brief overview of the renewal information. So once again, P&I provides bodily injury and property damage liability protection for accidents arising out of the ownership and operation of the vessels, including guests, the captain and crew members, and hull coverage directly covers the physical loss of damage to insured ferry boats. So just to give you a quick update on our overall premium, the renewal is approximately up about 7.2%. This is due to loss ratio over the past 5 years and then just general market conditions. As I've previously mentioned with other insurance renewals, the market's really hard right now for all lines of insurance. And as we know, this particular program is considered a high risk. Total premium, our expiring premium for the previous policy period was $132,463. And our renewal premium is $142,026. And that concludes the overview of the renewal. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, Erica. Bakari, I'm gonna make the suggestion we're gonna move the presentation up with the other presentations. And I think if we have a thorough enough presentation, we can add that item to the consent agenda as well.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions? Dr. Robinson, you have the floor.
This presentation, the P&I, didn't we have that in committee meetings?
The presentation actually was not made by the broker. Ms. Franklin actually gave the same overview that she just gave now. But we were going to actually have the broker come in and give their presentation because they could provide a little bit more information in terms of how rates are calculated or what influences our rates and things like that. They have more background information than Ms. Franklin would have. And so we wanted to make them available for the actual full board meeting.
Madam Chairman, my reason for asking that question is I'm kind of like Clinton when I look at the total number of action items that we have. And I don't know how long the presentation is going to be.
Mhm.
We need to put times on the presentations so the meetings won't run so long, and have them just give us whatever we think is relevant and not just, a lot of fluff is, I guess, what I want to say.
Absolutely. I understand. And if it is the will of the chair and the committee to not have the presentation, we don't have to do that either. We just want to make sure we're providing as much information to you all so that you be empowered to make the best decision possible.
And Ms.
Paul,
Malden,
Go ahead,
Sorry.
Ms. Franklin.
I was just going to add, and historically, Sterling Seacrest Partners does not actually come to the board meetings in the past and present on this specific insurance renewal. They have on our property and casualty system such a broad range of programs, but being with such a new board and Ms. Bacara being new, I thought it would be pertinent that they come just so everybody's on the same page regarding these coverages. But I can certainly speak at the board meeting regarding this in more detail if you prefer them not to. I just would like to let them know.
Well, as we go through this proposed board agenda, I'm going to start moving stuff up. So, I mean, we can reserve all that until after we go through the whole thing, because like line items C and D are going to be scratched because they're similar items to what's already in the recommendation. So these items, as we go through this proposed board agenda, we'll be knocking it out. And then of course, Ms. Malden will tell you, I am a stickler about telling her times when it comes to presentation. So we want to make sure we keep it moving and flowing. And the biggest piece is making sure that we get our other board members, when we send this information out on Friday, we read through the stuff. So therefore, we're not asking so many questions on next week, Tuesday. And so that's the reason why I stay. And Ms. Dumas will tell you that I stay as far as making sure we get this board packet out to the board members as quick as possible. So over the weekend, we can read through this stuff and have our questions being asked prior to having a board meeting. Because I think what holds our board meeting up so long is we wait till the board meeting to ask questions. And with that being stated, Mike had his hand up. Dr. Holloran, you have the floor.
Yeah, do we have the material now that could be sent out so we can read through it? We
Immediately
must have the proposal, right?
Immediately following this meeting, I'll have a conversation with them and see if we can get as much material as possible out to the board.
Yeah, because as we always had a problem with people trying to read stuff over the weekend. So
Yes.
the sooner we get it, the better. And it's really an annual renewal. The only real difference is the rate.
The rate is changing.
And, I don't think we need to present it every year. I mean, Erica does a great job in presenting it. All we need is that price change because it goes up every year. It really isn't a question. It's just how much. Every insurance one they do with us, every year it goes up. And there aren't many options for whole coverage.
Well, what I plan on doing is, because this is Mrs. Malden's first go around, I do want it where it's presented, even if it's a brief presentation of it, so it can be recorded that it's under a new administration and we're following procedure. Now, if she wants to do it next year, that's between the board or whoever's next year, but I would like to see it, a brief presentation of it if possible, Ms. Franklin.
Sure. Those were my thoughts.
Yeah,
Exactly. Thank
definitely
you.
having them there so we can ask them the questions we need to ask.
And we would want to ask those questions in the presentation side versus in the action item side. Thank you, Mike.
That's
All right.
Sounds good. And you guys know that Sterling Seacrest is pretty straight to the point, typically with their presentation. So I don't think we have a lot to worry about there, but I'll make sure they're on the same page.
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're going to skip line item C and D because they have already been put in the recommendations for the board packet, and which takes us to line E, Intelligent Transportation System Contract Award.
Mr. Chairman, this item seeks to obtain board approval for a contract to Clever Devices in the amount of $2,528,823 for an ITS system.
Okay. All right. Do you have any questions to it? It's pretty much straight to the point. Dr. Robinson or Clinton, y'all have any questions?
I'm good.
All right.
Excited about it, but I don't have any questions.
Yes, sir. Ms. Robinson, you got it. Dr. Robinson, you got the floor.
Yeah, I'm excited about that as well. And again, my only question is, and it doesn't have to be answered, but my concern is, given the budget crunch that we're in, what kind of measures are we taking, whether it's this contract or any contract, to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves?
All right.
Can I jump in there real quick?
Go ahead.
I know that that most of the money that we're spending on this is coming from grants, and I think if we can make a show of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think if we can make a show of the cooperation we're doing with the NPC and the fact that this is, I believe, federal money coming in, then that would be, I think that would assuage anybody who's like concerned about, you know, a budget concern, and also show. This is kind of what I mentioned during our committee meeting, is make a big show of the cooperation that we're doing and where the money's coming from.
So basically, and I'm gonna let you answer, if Ms. Malden, if you didn't answer the question, what I'll do is I'll leave that as an action item, so that can be mentioned as an action item. So we understand that we are not being irresponsible as far as funding is concerned. We're using grant dollars to take care of this. Ms. Malden, you have the floor.
No, I was actually going to say the same thing that Director Edminster said. He put it eloquently.
All right. So we're even going to let Director Edminster even, I'm just joking. We're not going to do that, Clinton. So everybody's good with that?
Yes.
All right. So I will leave this item as an action item. Did you catch that, Ms. Beverly?
Yes, sir.
And so moving to the next item, the RFP assurance for legal services and representation.
So, Mr. Chairman, this item seeks board approval to release a RFP for the issuance for legal services and representation for general counsel. And it basically will likely be at a price point where we're going to need an RFP. So we need board approval to seek to release this RFP.
Okay, well, I will leave this one on the table as well. All right. Y'all have any questions to that? Wonderful. Process development policy approval.
This item seeks approval of a policy that basically we have now created. It's essentially the policy for creating policies. It outlines exactly what steps we're going to take, the format you're going to use, who has authority. For instance, it'll say policies must be approved by the board. It just kind of spells out everything that we have been kind of collectively at CAT operating under, but it puts it kind of formally in writing and establishes the formal procedure for developing processes.
All right. Dr. Robinson, Director Robinson, you have the floor.
Yes, I'd like to ask that a copy of that, the draft form of whatever form it's in, be given to the Performance Monitoring Audit Committee prior to the meeting, please.
I believe the draft will be included with the board report, or is the audit in first, Beverly?
Actually, the draft of the document was sent out in the emails that I sent to the entire board on yesterday.
I didn't see it.
Okay, I'll be happy to resend it to you. Did any of the board members get my emails from yesterday?
This was which email?
This was I sent two emails, one that had all of the policies except for the telework policy. And then the telework policy was in a separate email.
And this is process development policy?
Yes, that was included in it.
Well,
I got them.
what time did it go out, Ms. McCarr? Ms. Malden, about what?
Let's see.
I did get them.
I got it on August the 3rd.
Mr. Chairman, I think
Do it.
that August the 3rd was the initial
original?
drafts. That was
Alright.
that was the initial draft. And just to kind of say, this is the direction we're going. We're trying to start the process of creating a policy manual, but then we sent it out to the full board this week.
Okay.
Okay, I'll look for it.
And I'll get that information back out to everyone.
All right.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Line item H, COVID-19 response policy approval.
So this item seeks approval of what we're calling the COVID-19 response policy. And basically, it actually follows the outline of the presentation that was given you in much more detailed format of what's going on and what we're doing.
And item I is the same from that same presentation?
Yes, it's the FFCRA portion of that presentation.
All right. All right. Do you have any questions? Anybody has any questions to that? Now, if those are tied to that presentation, then I can move H and I to the consent agenda too. Just make sure we highlight that approvals for those will be needed in the or attached in the consent agenda. You understand what I'm saying, Dr. Ms. Malden?
Yes, sir. I
Okay.
do.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
so we're gonna move those two items to the consent?
H and I should be moved to consent as well.
Thank you.
And the only reason why I'm not moving the process development policy is because I don't have anything, we're talking about it in the, I guess in the presentation. So,
Gotcha.
all right. So right now I have E, F, and G. I mean, yeah, E, F, and G. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Our action items will be reading separate.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, telework policy.
So this item seeks board approval for the telework policy, and the telework policy is basically a formalized document of the expectations and requirements and limitations of teleworking.
All right. Any questions on that? Cool. Support vehicle award amendment. Support vehicle award amendment.
So this item seeks ratification of approval to extend the award price, purchase price amount from the support vehicle that was previously issued from $30,493 to $34,080. The issue here is the approved vehicles for 2021, they just aren't out there. What was approved was a Ford Explorer, and basically the best we could do was a Ford Edge, which is a vehicle down. But with the 2021 models, they're a little more money than the 2020 models. So what we're trying to do is just ratify approval of just going from an Explorer down to an Edge, but also going from $30,493 to $34,080.
This is a decrease in $4,000 because we're dealing with newer vehicles.
Yeah, basically.
All right.
Even though we actually went down a model level.
I respect that. It's the season when we bought the car. That's basically what we're at.
Yes.
All right. Y'all have any questions to that? Good. All right. All right. So the last item for approval is board officer election. Board officer election, that will be under old business. And that'll be it as far as the proposed item. So could you please read me what's going to be considered on the consent agenda, and then yes, Dr. Robinson.
This thing that we're passing over, the board office election. What are we talking about? The chair seat?
Yes, Dr. Robinson.
Can I comment?
Sure.
Okay. Now, this is just my suggestion or recommendation, and I don't know how this committee, the governance committee, can move this forward. But my thinking is that because we have gone through so many changes and we've accomplished so much, you know, one of our major things that we've done in this fiscal year was started under one chair and completed with our interim chair was selecting our CEO. And from the time that our CEO was hired, our current interim CEO had been, you know, building the relationship and helping move the organization forward with the CEO. So my thinking is, since we're already almost into September, and I'm assuming this might be a recommendation, you guys, Mr. and Mr. Jones, you have to help me with this. My recommendation would be to the full board is that we allow Commissioner Jones to stay in the position as interim at least through January, because if we look at how the election results turned out, we may have a whole new board. And so to have that board come in under a new leadership, you know, could be a disadvantage to them. So if we can leave things as they are, if there's no legal ramifications to do that, my recommendation would be to the full board, if that's the way, that's where I'm supposed to make it, would be to leave things as they are.
That is a recommendation you can make. I can only serve until December the 31st. So that's the longest I can serve. And in December, the month of December, the chairman of the county has already made the point that he's going to make the 3 recommendations based on those people who are elected in November to serve as those people who will be moving forward. So of course, me and Commissioner Odell will be moving forward. So at least 2 people will be replaced on this board. Dr. Holleran had his hand up. Yes, sir.
There I am. I think I'm on.
Yeah.
I actually think the opposite to Dr. Robinson. If we're going to have several new board members in January, I think we need continuity going into January. No offense to you, Jay, but you're going to be leaving. That means the chairman's leaving, 2 board members will be changing. We still haven't had orientation for the last 2 board members that came on. Clinton could be, you know, anything can happen. I just think it's good that we have someone, but we should at least fill one of the 2 seats so that there's someone getting some training going forward before we get to January and we dump the, you know, because there's very few people on the board that can run unless the county changes their position on chairman from the county members. I don't know if the city allows it or wants to have it. Kind of narrows down the people that are available. Pete can't run, so that's 5 people. We're not going to have a whole lot of selection come January possibly. And I think we need to get someone working along with, even if it's with Jay and a new chairman, to get them used to the position. There's a lot to it. And you could dump it on someone with no experience come January.
Mike, I do want to add latitude to it that was a chairman of the county. I keep saying this again. There's a chairman of the county preference. There is no.
I understand that, but we don't know that's not going to continue in January.
I waited till you finish, Mike. I know it'll at least continue until January because that's a chairman's preference. It's a chairman's preference, but it's not a law. And that's why any of us can serve as in any capacity on the board, because they can't, the only way you can change the law is you have to change the appointments. And they're considering changing the appointments in the spring. So, I appreciate, and I agree with you to some degree, a lot of that you just said, because I do think that we need to have some continuity going in. However we want to do it, I don't care about doing it. And I don't have a problem sitting in the chairman seat until January either. It doesn't matter to me. But I just want us to make sure that we stay on the course of making sure we do what we need to do to move our organization forward. Dr. Robinson, you got the floor.
Now,
I
my-
still have, can I respond to that answer?
Yes, sir.
I had the floor. We don't know if the next chairman is going to prevent any councilmen from, or commissioners to sitting on the board either. We are by law, Robert's rules, that at the next full board meeting, an election has to be held when the chairman resigns or dies. So,
That is correct. If
so
I,
we
if I
have to
resign-
have the election. If no one runs, then nothing changes. That's the only thing you can do. You can't cancel an election because we don't like it at this time. 'Cause
Not disagreeing at all, sir. Dr. Robinson, you have the floor.
Okay, again, I want to go back to my original question was that I know we have to have it on the agenda. That's not my question. My question is, can a recommendation be made at the full board meeting? And it can be, you know, they can say no to it and we can move forward with the election, or they can say yes to it and we not have the election. Because I'm not sure what Dr. O'Halloran just said, that we have to, I guess my question, we have to have the elections. If that's so, then I won't make the recommendation.
And Dr. Halloran just said it again, and I've said it before. We have to put it on it because it has to be done. Now, if nobody nominates anybody, then I sit in the seat until we finally make a nomination for somebody to sit in the seat. But it has to be on the agenda. I have to make sure it's on the agenda as an item. And to give the other 8 board members the opportunity to say, I want to serve as chair, or I do not want to serve as chair. I have to put it on the agenda. You cannot keep it, you can keep it off the agenda, but I'm not going to be the chair that keeps it off the agenda. I'm going to be the chair that says, here's the opportunity. If somebody else wants to serve as chair, you have the right, privilege, and honor to serve as chair. If nobody else says they want to serve as chair, or we don't get a full nomination or full vote on it, then guess what? Then we don't have it. But I agree with Mike. We still need to make sure that somebody is in the cusp to say, okay, well, I'll let Jay do it, but somebody has to say, I want to make sure that I'm in the wing learning what Jay is doing. So when Jay walks off, we aren't left in the cold. And I'm thinking that that's what Dr. O'Halloran is trying to make sure we follow through.
And I got one last, I promise.
Yes, ma'am.
And this relates to the city of Savannah appointment, which is Clinton. And Clinton, will Clinton be returning, or can they appoint somebody else and move Clinton?
The only appointments that's falling off are the 3 county appointments.
Okay.
And we're not even falling off. It's just our terms expire.
Gotcha.
Our terms expire in December. Our terms expire when our term for election expire.
Gotcha.
And so when the chair did it, when we did it over at County Commission, the chair didn't give us a full term. He gave us a half a term. And a half a term expires in December 31st, 2021. 20. And so at the end of the year, whatever that meeting is before the end of the year, the last thing we're going to do as a commission is we're going to vote those 2 brand new, or whatever, how many brand new people to represent me and Tab right now, if Helen, onto the board. And that will be done that last meeting in December.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Dr. Halloran, you have something else?
Yeah, just to clarify, if the county's all right with it, there's no reason you can't be appointed temporary chairman and add a vote for a vice chair to get someone in the pipeline. Because right now you have both of those seats, so there's no one technically in the pipeline. If you want to run as temporary chair, that's possible for a specified period of time with a vice chair to learn and possibly move into the chairmanship in January.
I mean, be honest with you, as a board, we can have a discussion off the record and say, hey, who wants to serve in leadership come January? And whoever that person is that wants to serve in leadership come January, you just give them the authority to do that kind of thing without the title. It's multiple ways you can do that, Mike. And I'm not trying to circumvent the system.
No, but you
I
also
know under
don't.
Robert Rules of Order, The only way I can stay in position as the interim chair is as the interim chair. Now I can be elected into it and argue and fuss with the county the very next meeting. I don't have a problem with that either.
No,
But
and if it's a temporary position, I don't see why they should either.
yeah, but he doesn't have an issue. Me and him talk all the time. He doesn't have an issue me being an interim chair in the position all the way to December. His biggest thing is he doesn't want to be elected into the position.
Gotcha.
But that leaves us with no vice chair.
And I understand that, and per Robert Rules of Order, if I'm the only way we can put a vice chair in the position, title-wise vice chair in the position is if what? I have to be elected in that position to open up the seat for somebody to be elected in the vice chair position. Oh, you got it, Clinton.
So if we vote to make you chairman for the next however long period, then what you're saying is that you have to take that, is that there may be some difficulty or a challenge with the county because you are a county commissioner right now.
It's in politics, it's not something that's set in stone. It's a preference. The chairman of the county has a preference. He does not want us elected into this position.
Got it.
It's not a law. It's not a policy. It's not a rule. It's a preference.
Got it. Well, I mean, I'm definitely interested in the vice chairmanship position. I think I'm also interested in exploring being chair in January as well. I think that's more of an internal conversation as sort of the board collects itself and gets together. But I'm definitely quite interested in that. And I put my name down for vice chair and yours for chair.
I'm trying to get us to understand that we don't have to have this conversation at governor's meeting. This is a conversation we can have as board members.
Yeah, well, I just want to put that out there.
I got you, brother.
So what do we need to talk about right now?
All right, so are we finished with, I was getting ready to go back into the meeting. Are we finished with this so I can go back into the meeting?
Yeah, so all we're saying is that we are gonna have the discussion and we're gonna vote on it.
No, right now, on the next week's meeting, the title Board Officer Elections will be on the agenda under old business.
Great. I'm all set.
All right. With that being said, Ms. Beverly, could you please give me what items are going to be done through consent agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In addition to the 4 items that's already listed on the agenda, we are adding the P&I renewal, action item, the COVID-19 response policy, and the FFCRA policy under the consent agenda.
Okay. Clinton, Dr. Robinson, are y'all okay with that?
Yes,
So
sir.
it's 7 items total for the consent agenda.
Okay, so we added 3 more items to the consent agenda.
And I think for the first time doing this, I think this is a great idea.
Okay. Thank you. And then Ms. Malden, before I go into your question, what is on the action items or single item agenda? What items are we going to have to read and be approved?
Okay. We have the ITS contract award, the RFP for legal services, the process development policy, the support vehicle award amendment, and the telework policy.
So I thought we moved the telework, so we're gonna keep I thought we moved the telework policy. I mean, we can keep it there too, that's fine. So the telework policy.
That may have been one that I missed. Is that one supposed to go to consent?
Beverly, I think it was left on there because there wasn't a presentation, so they haven't.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it, sir.
It's okay, Miss Malden.
All right, Ms. Malden, you had something to add?
Well, just wanted clarity on the process development policy approval. Is that something that's being remanded back to the audit committee?
Do you want to, I think she wanted to look at it before we approved it. That's what she's asking, Dr. Robinson.
That's correct.
So you want to pull that off?
Well, I mean, if after this meeting, we're going to be sending copies of things, I'm fine with that.
Now, Ms. Malden, if you do this for items G, H, and K, G, H, J, and K, if we can get those items, and Beverly, I like the technical things, but I also think that we need to send it per sheet in like a PDF per sheet. So 4 PDFs in an email, so people can click on it, look at it.
And yes, sir.
Versus
No,
going through a link.
no problem. I believe that's the way that Ms. Malden sent it out. So I think the confusion is some board members received a copy and some did not, but
Okay.
we're going to forward that email right back out after this meeting.
And then another thing, and I know it's embedded in, I guess y'all emails. What happens is when y'all send the emails, but then y'all have those like the cat pictures and everything like that. What ends up happening is instead of 4 documents, I have 10 documents, and 5 or 6 of them are the cat picture or the little icons that y'all put, I guess, with y'all email addresses and stuff like that.
That does happen. And I
Happening.
just want to make sure I'm using the right email addresses for
Okay.
each of our board members. So I'll check back with you, Dr. Robinson, to see if
but
we
if
have
you-
the information going to your correct email.
But if we get G, H, J, and K all sent via email, then we can add those 4 items to the consent agenda as well. And then please make sure you put on there, please review this stuff and ask questions, because these items will be potentially added to the consent agenda. And that way, if they don't reply back, then I can hold them honest to not being able to read the email. And I'm not trying to trap nobody, but I'm just trying to make sure that information gets put out there. Robinson and then Miss Dumas.
What I like to suggest, Chairman, is that perhaps the directions as to the importance of reading it should come from you to the board.
That's cool. Just send it to me, Beverly, and then I'll send it out.
Absolutely. And Chairman, if we can put a timestamp on that, because we're looking to send the board packet out no later than noon tomorrow, the full board packet.
But
so I just want to make sure we have everything in order based
Okay.
on what the committee is suggesting today,
okay.
recommended today.
All right, you got the floor, Ms. Malden.
So the original email was sent yesterday at 12:14 p.m.
Okay.
And which included the process development policy.
Yes.
That was the only thing in the email.
It was all of the policies. It was the COVID-19 response procedure,
Okay,
the FFCRA procedure,
okay,
the response protocol for COVID-19 workplace exposure, the COVID-19 vendor protocol, and the COVID-19 screening questions protocol.
Now, I want to put this out here, y'all. And David, this is for you, for anybody else who's got the reports. Just because it goes on the consent agenda doesn't mean you don't need to be prepared to talk about it, because any board member can pull it off the consent agenda and want to vote on it separately. A consent agenda just means that we have somewhat of approval to put it all together, but they will be given opportunities. So I want to pull that off the consent agenda and vote on it separately. Someone may have opposition to it, so we still want to be prepared for it. Ms. Malden, you have the floor.
The telework policy was sent yesterday at 4:18 p.m.
Okay. Well, I saw the telework one. I just didn't see when I pull up the other one, it gave me a date 8/4, but I'll look through it deeper when I get off the call.
We'll go ahead and resend it, but I just wanted you to know that we did send it ahead of time.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? And David, do you understand what I just said? Because you did the bulk of most of the presentation. That's why I'm calling your name.
Yes, sir, I do. I will be ready.
Okay. With that will only leave us with one item on the action item calendar, unless something is pulled from the consent, and that's the IFB issuance. Oh, I'm sorry, that'd be the Intelligent Transportation System Contract Award. That'd be the only thing that'd be on the action item calendar. Am I correct? Beverly?
Okay, so I probably missed a few things while I was searching for, going through this email to send out to the board. So we are moving the RFP legal services to consent.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, the ITS contract award, we're gonna keep that on the regular action calendar.
Yes. And now, Ms. Malden, anything you think we need to leave as a real action item, please stop me.
No, you just clarified.
Okay.
You just clarified. I had that item off of consent as well.
Okay.
And based on the information that goes out to the board today, will justify if we're gonna move the other 3 items to the consent agenda.
Okay. And like I said, we want to make sure when we send this agenda out, we want to explain to them that if these items we vote by consent. If they feel they need to pull it off and we need to have more conversation about it, we'll pull it out of the consent agenda and put it on the actual action item, the proposed board agenda or the regular agenda items to be voted on separately. Yes, ma'am.
And one last thing, Mr. Chairman, can I get the preference of the committee today? Do you prefer for us to send the email with each attachment separate? Or do you prefer all the attachments in one email?
I prefer all attachments, all email, but Dr. Robinson, because I get too many emails and I'm not gonna go through all. I'm gonna tell you that now.
Okay,
Dr. Robinson, Clinton.
Yeah, as long, that's the simplest way to do it, is attach all the items to one email.
yes,
But
ma'am.
but I would do it separate by items in that one email.
Right.
Yes.
Click that document and click that document, click that document.
Instead of just a running document, yeah.
Yeah, because that running document gets confusing. Now, over time, we're gonna get to a running document, but I think what we need to do is take child steps first.
Absolutely. Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Do we have any other additional questions?
Just on the subject line and email clarification. Sometimes images in the email, like the Facebook icon or a cat icon,
That's what I was
get
talking about
attached.
earlier.
Yeah, get included, and that's kind of confusing. And if you just put something in the subject line, attachments included, in all capital letters, just let us know, because I think that would be helpful, so we can be extra aware.
That sound familiar? Ms. Beverly?
Yes, sir. It does. It does. Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
So we'll
I
get this
appreciate
taken
you.
care of. Thank you.
And thanks for working with us, Beverly. I know we hard-headed. It's all on me. Blame me. Don't blame Clinton. Don't blame Dr. Robinson. Don't blame
True,
Mike.
blame him.
No blame at all. It's
I'm taking
fine.
all responsibility. All right. With that being said, we're moving on to old business. Old business. Do we have anything in GOV committee? No. But next month, I say this every month. Hopefully, if we can get past this consent agenda stuff, next month I can really focus on what's going on in our actual regular meeting. So I don't have anything for governance committee, the ESR committee. And isn't that Clinton?
Oh yeah, nobody ever calls it ESR. That sounds weird.
I just the initials, and I don't know what it really. Go ahead, brother.
No, I mean the main. We did cover a lot of stuff that was covered in the other committee meetings as well. And really, my main thing was focusing on. I guess the newest thing that would be different from everybody else was making sure that when we do the purchase of the ITS system, that we use that as a great opportunity to showcase some of the best aspects of that purchase, which are, money that's not necessarily coming from Chatham County or any taxpayers here, as well as the working with the MPC. I think that was mainly like the pretty, am I missing anything, Patricia? It's pretty light meeting.
Okay. All right. You go ahead. I'm gonna skip because I'm gonna go ahead and skip over me to you, Dr. Robinson. Do you have anything for yours?
Well, the only thing one of the tasks that we had was to do come up with a evaluation instrument, but since we have had changes in employee positions, that document at this point is null and void.
All right. And okay, and the only thing I had as far as the strategic operation planning, is I want to go back to that meeting, Dr. Robinson, this is months ago before we even had COVID-19, where we went through the old strategic plan and we kind of brought up new dates and new items and new ideas and what we want to. I would like to see the final product of that. I really haven't really asked for anything normal to that, but if we can get the final product to what we discussed in that meeting, that would be helpful so we can see what we need to go as far as strategic plan is concerned. I do know that there have been conversations. Chatham Area Transit has been mentioned in numerous occasions. The arena project, for example, is one of the big projects that I know Chatham Area Transit, they want our footprint on that. That's one big thing that we're trying to work toward doing. As far as getting back onto the Let's Go, I know Miss Patricia's gonna be happy about hear that. I don't think it's time for us to really start talking about the Let's Go project again, you know, blow the dust off of that and see what's okay. Let's see now that we didn't implement it, what we can take from it as components and start working toward using those components and start having those conversations. I know me and you briefly talked about it, Ms. Malden, in reference to getting the Let's Go, you know, together, blowing the dust off that. The TDP is something I really want to get really get interested in conversating about again. The TAM plan, another thing that I want to start talking about again. Improvements in ITC, and you know, what can we do once COVID-19 is over, and how our downtown corridor has been retooled, and what our strategic plan is before we open up full blast in the next 3 or 4 years, where we become not just the tourist industry, but the housing industry. Because a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people in the housing market right now, and houses are becoming a premium in Chatham County now. The market value in houses, even in bad neighborhoods, are going up 5, 10, 15%. So that means people are interested in moving to Savannah, Chatham County. And so that means Chatham Area Transit needs to be on the cusp of having those conversations, not just in Savannah and Chatham County, but in Savannah, Chatham County, and all the other municipalities. So those are the conversations we will start having in the strategic planning meeting starting next month. Hopefully I don't have to have my meeting canceled. My meeting's been canceled at least 2 times. So I want to make sure that we don't cancel no more meetings if we have those strategic planning meetings.
So who are you assigning that task to? You said you want to see the finished product. Who are you assigning that task to?
Well, when I speak openly like that, that means I'm talking to Ms. Molden without calling Ms. Molden's name out, and she'll find whoever she needs to assign the task to, or she'll say, Commissioner Jones, I can't get that to you in September, but can I work on that in October? And I always say yes. So when I openly speak like that, it's always tasked to the boss to make sure we get those things taken care of. Ms. Molden, you have something to say since she done sent the volleyball to you?
Yeah, one thing I thought about that we didn't put on this agenda just hit my brain.
Mhm.
The airports, the 100X shuttle, the task force that has been working. I think we'll have an initial, at least an update on what work has been done on that. Commissioner Stone, I think, asked for that last meeting. And so I thought about that. But
Can
yes,
we have not spoken on it before, so can we put that on the new business and just put it on the new business? Because it's
sure.
not something we're gonna vote on, it's just something we're gonna have discussion about.
Okay.
All right.
And yes, I do understand that when you say things openly, that those are my assignments, and we'll make sure they're handled appropriately.
Thank you, boss. All right, Dr. Robinson, Clint, y'all have anything else to add? All right. With that being said, we just talked about the new item on being added as far as the airport. Ms. Malden, you have the floor.
One more thing. We're still under old business, right?
New and old business, either one, doesn't matter.
Okay, so I made presentations during all the board meetings, and of course, we had a special call meeting where several options were offered for service reduction. Are you looking for me to come back around with a staff recommendation under new business for this month?
I think the only thing that I'm, and it's not necessarily me, and I can only speak for me. I think the only thing that's going to be asked for a recommendation to be voted on or even be moved on by the administration would be the airport stuff. Because that's the only thing I received the email about was the airport stuff.
Okay. If we are wanting to move forward with some level of service reduction, just based on the ridership statistics that we have. And so we can move forward with the putting in front of the board a recommendation for the level of service reduction that we're looking at.
And that's for the airport or for the fixed route?
That's for the fixed route.
Okay. I'm with it. As long as that's gonna be an individual item we'll discuss though.
Well, right, it would be new business, actually. Well, would it be new business or would it be old business?
I would put that on the proposed board agenda item, for discussion. Doesn't have to have I mean, I guess you can put it on the new business.
Yeah, I just wasn't clear because everything kind of happened so fast. We gave the financial update and then we gave the service reduction update. And so we didn't really leave it where we had a specific timeline or schedule. So I just wanted to know, what the board was looking for me to bring back and how soon. That's all.
Well, Mike has a question, so I'm gonna give the floor to him.
No, just a recommendation, since we did have a special board meeting and did discuss that, let's keep it on, we should keep it under all business. I don't know if we should have it as open session. Maybe it should be in a executive session,
All right.
but that'll be up to you to decide that, but that's still all business on. Are we on new business too?
I just say old or new, either one of the matter, because
Yeah, do we have any information tracing where our people got the COVID infection yet? How they got it? It said operations, were they drivers or who actually got the COVID?
Well, we're not in the position where we can provide that specific information in an open meeting session, because we're talking about specific individuals.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to provide any information that would lead the public to specifically be able to identify.
We'll put it on the personnel matters and we'll just call an executive session.
Okay. That would help.
In my apologies.
No, that's okay. The HIPAA requirements don't allow you to discuss medical conditions.
Well, we can talk about
openly,
it. We can talk about it in personnel.
Yeah. That would work.
All right.
Oh, and one other thing.
Yes, sir.
Do we have, is anybody on staff prepared to give a budget workshop? I think the board really needs it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Our staff has already started working on that. We're not at a position at this juncture to have the beginning of the budget workshop. There are a lot of things that need to be reworked internally first, and then we bring it to the board in terms of a budget workshop. We're still kind of doing our preliminary assessment based on the information that we presented to the board last week. And so it is actually our plan to have internal budget workshops first, and then reach out to the chair for scheduling for board budget workshops.
And
But
we
we
had
would-
talked, and me and Ms. Molden had talked about doing it either September, October. You heard me,
Yeah,
Mike?
'cause I know we got them screwed up and they got further on in the year than we really wanted them because we started to do committees and things.
Yes, sir. Well,
I
we're looking
think
at
that's it for
September.
me, 'cause-
We're looking at September, October, Mike.
Good, because I think we have a basic misunderstanding on the whole budget process.
All right. All right. Any other questions out there?
That's it for me.
Thank you, Mike. Mr. Director Edminster, Director Robinson, y'all got any questions? With new
No,
old business?
No, sir, I'm
Ma'am?
good. I said, no, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Edminster, what about you, brother?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
I think
All
we're
right.
up to date and ready for a meeting.
All right, so the last items we have on the agenda, our next meeting is August 25th. That is our regular scheduled monthly board meeting. We will be promptly starting at 10 o'clock and calling for roll call and everything like that. Ms. Molden, I will let you have it before I have adjournment. And then September 1st, you have your committee meetings. And with that being said, I'm sorry, Ms. Molden, you have the floor.
I was under the impression that you put it out to possibly have the committee meetings the second week instead of the first week.
And
To
I'm glad you brought that up. We still have to vote to change that.
Okay,
Have to vote to change that.
all
And
right.
pretty much to everybody, I don't know if Mike will probably remember, I don't know if Dr. Robinson and Clint were around. We traditionally had our committee meetings the second week of the month and not the first week of the month, and gave us that first week off. What I would make a suggestion for the rest of the year is move to the second week again in alls to give our administrative and staff at least 2 weeks to prepare for us in committee meeting after board meeting. And so it will be a recommendation that we move our meetings from the first week committee to the second week in committee. Did y'all catch that? My
Yeah.
two governance people?
But let me ask, but in September, that second Tuesday will be right after Labor Day.
Correct.
So is that an issue for any of the board members?
Don't bother me. I mean, that Tuesday, everybody should be at work now. They may not be in the best shape, but they should be back at work.
I just threw that out for consideration for September.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just as a note, the reason these meetings were moved the way they were moved was,
It was because of committee, the national stuff.
no, it was moved because of the recommendations that we got from Doug Eady, where the committee's members and board members are supposed to do the preparation of all these reports.
Uh-huh,
That was the original idea of the Doug Eady program.
uh-huh.
We're still having staff do it, so the meeting date is not quite as critical. We tried to get it as close to after the board meeting so that the committee could give the staff all their recommendations to get ready.
Okay.
If you move it to the second week, you also eliminate any chance for special meetings unless you want to make those on the first.
Mhm.
But there was a reason why they were moved for basically Doug Eady's recommendation. I know Bakara probably has read the book and understands the system, but we're not quite there yet, as you know, because staff is still making all the presentations at the board meetings, and that wasn't the purpose of it in the initial concept.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, Mike, I'm losing my meeting every single month because my it gets canceled in the morning time. So,
I'm not sure why.
well,
I didn't cancel any of them.
Well, I didn't cancel it, but we replaced it with other meetings. Maybe I should say it that way.
That's what I mean. That's why that second was open for emergency meetings. But I mean, it's up to you guys.
Okay.
The committees can meet anytime.
Well, I'm that's why I'm asking for that recommendation, because we have a lot of new staff in positions now. And so I want to make sure that it's going to be I think we need a grace period week more than we need a week to allow them to develop. I think we need a grace period week more than we need the week to develop. And that's why I made the suggestion,
Yeah, whatever works.
after the board meeting, then the people can say we don't have to see them board of director or board of leadership for 2 weeks. And I think that's what I'm trying to lean harder toward.
And I'm thinking the restructuring of the committees with staff on it is going to prove very, very fruitful and helpful. So I think with the committee, the board members and the staff working together through committee, the staff making the presentation is fine. It's just that they'll have board input and board support when it comes to the full. So,
yes, and I'm only making a recommendation until the end of the year. I want to go back to the original structure at the beginning of the year, but just to give us that 1 week grace period where it's kind of, board meeting is real stressful. And then after board meeting, everything tames out for them. And then we got to go right back to next Tuesday. And so what I would like to see is that 1 week where we don't have to worry about having that structure piece. But this is something we can talk as a board, especially we get this consent agenda to the point where we need to get to, and then going back to that meeting structure. But I would like to entertain that conversation as far as that calendar, or restructuring that calendar just for the end of the year, through the end of the year. All right. All right, with that being said, for the good of the order, it's not, I know it's not on here, but for the good order, is anything for the good of the order? And that's an old school term. Anything for the good of the order. In good order, anything we want to bring good news, bad news, or anything indifferent. All right, well, as I stated before at the beginning of the meeting, tomorrow is the first day of school here in Chatham County. Ms. Malden, please don't beat up our employees because they're gonna have a rough time because I know we're short a lot of computers in our system right now. And so I know it's gonna be a hard push. And I'm sure that we're gonna have some upboarding information stuff going on. So Ms. Malden, if anybody is late or anything like that, blame it on me. It's my fault. I take full responsibility for it. Now I gave y'all one buddy pass to all the employees. Please don't take advantage of it. Too bad. But just be understood that CAT is on the move. We're changing. We're seeing some good positive energy out there in our community. And let's just, as a team, work together to make these things happen. And with that being said, I'll call the meeting to be adjourned.
Thank you, Jay.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
12:24.
Bye,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
All right, thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.